Neighborhoods like this are becoming an increasingly common sight. Ash trees with thinning upper canopies, flecked bark damage, and shoots of new branches at the trunk. All telltale signs that these trees have been infected by the emerald ash borer.
It should be emerging right here. That's an exit hole. These smaller ones are emerald ash borer leaving the tree.
According to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, there are roughly 3.1 million community ash trees in Iowa. As ash is one of the most commonly planted street trees in the state, the emerald ash borer is having huge economic impact on the forest resources of cities and towns.
You look at history, and we had Dutch elm disease come through. In Iowa, the biggest years were kind of in the 60s and 70s and wiped out the elms. And then we had to replace these trees, and this was the #1 tree. Green ash is highly resistant to salt and heat and handles a variety of soils and grows very quickly. And so we didn't learn from Dutch elm disease. We kind of went in and replanted lots and lots of ash or lots and lots of maples. And so when we have an invasive pest like emerald ash borer when it came in, it was able to run down those streets like we see here pretty quickly. Emerald ash borer is kind of a unique insect. It's an invasive insect, like you mentioned, not native to the United States. It comes from China, Korea, some of those Asian continent areas. It was introduced in 2002 to Detroit, Michigan, and it's a primary killer of all fraxinus or ash trees.
The emerald ash borer was first discovered in Iowa in 2010 on an island in the Mississippi River. Despite the Iowa Department of Natural Resources putting a quarantine on moving the wood, the beetle continued to make a westward push through the state.
It went through the state tremendously fast. But I have a publication we put out that was looking at the railroad. And the railroad is what moved it quickly through Iowa. They fly around in the spring, get on the cars, take a ride. So the rail communities were hit the hardest.
Adult beetles live on the outside of trees and feed on the leaves during the summer months. The larvae feed on the living plant tissue underneath the bark. The tunneling and feeding activity of the larva is what ultimately kills the trees. When the bark is peeled back, you can see the dizzying patterns left behind from the larva. As millions of these trees are cut down, several factors come into play. How do communities efficiently remove wood from neighborhoods? What's the financial cost of cutting down the trees? And what should communities do with such a volume of wood when most of it is perfectly usable for other purposes?
Are these trees worthless? It's a tough one. So the ash market, believe it or not, pre-2002 was pretty good. You know, you could sell and mill out most trees. Urban trees, they're tough because you don't know what's inside of that tree. So it's really hard to dispose of these trees, and what do you do with all of this wood when it comes down? You know, just on this block alone, we're probably looking at, I don't know, maybe 500-600 trees that are going to come down in the next year or two. That's a lot of wood material, and we really don't have answers for it.
According to the U.S. Forest Service, if recovered and repurposed, wood from the country's urban forests could produce nearly 4 billion board feet of lumber each year. Upcycling is becoming a popular trend for urban wood. The Iowa DNR Forestry has been working to connect people all along the supply chain to build community, business, and consumer interest to embrace this underutilized resource.
There are some creative things happening. There are a few smaller communities that have the wood milled out, and they take the wood to work in their shop classes. Others have turned them into benches. The city of Waterloo ended up mulching the wood and turned them into pellets, and then they get turned into power. The pellets are burned for power. So everybody's got some creativity with it, a little different use, but it's not universal. It really depends on where you're at in the state.
We've got a lot more ash now than we ever had before.
Monty and Betty Button own Bear Creek Hardwoods outside of Earlham, Iowa. They are a full-service lumber mill and kiln that takes locally sourced wood and repurposes it.
It used to be that they would just cut down all the trees mulch them up, or take them to a landfill. And that was such a waste. That wood is so beautiful and it's so purposeful that there has to be a better way to do it. It's an easy wood to cut. It's not really, really hard. It's got great characteristics. It's got a lot of nice grainage like oak has, but it's a lighter wood.
As more and more ash comes into mills like Bear Creek Hardwoods, they are using the repurposed wood for a variety of projects.
What we've done a lot with ash is we will make dinner tables, mantles. We do a lot of flooring with ash. There's really no limit on what you can do with ash because it's just a real nice, stable wood.
The fight in stopping this pest from infecting trees is over, and it is not clear if ash will ever rebound again in the state. But like the local craft beer movement or the local food movement, mills like this are building a local wood movement, all of which can help improve local economies, repurpose a waste product, and create something of lasting value for years to come.
And it's neat just to know that this item that we have was grown in our own soil, is just being repurposed, and it's just very interesting to know that this is from Iowa.